on this.
All right, all right, we're back. We just hopped right into this recording here because prior
Oh
to
yeah, we're
this,
recording. Look at that already. Boom.
it got a little. We're about to go down a rabbit hole, and I was telling Steve, and I was just having a chat conversation with some of my buddies here. Like, I feel like we're in a really weird time in society right now with social media and AI, and I was saying like, it's just crazy how one, news stories can go by so quickly. Like we were just talking about, one of our buddies going to Hawaii, how nobody talks about that anymore.
Yeah, what
How,
happened in Maui? Yeah, exactly.
done, literally, and how our president or former president's head almost exploded on television and not many people talk about it anymore. And I was saying recently, I feel like I see a lot in work now, people just submitting work that was clearly written by an LLM. And it seems like everybody for the past couple of years, attention spans are going to shit because of social media. And I feel like now with AI, there's a huge lack of originality, and people are not going to learn any of the fundamentals anymore. And attention spans are already on the brink with social. You then layer that on top of AI, and AI is just telling you, here's what to write, here's what to think, here's the direction to go in. It's like nobody's going to know how to do anything anymore. Like, I know that's a dramatic statement, but like, I don't know if it's like a net positive for society here.
Yeah, no, man. Literally, I was trying to figure out like a list of like top news events in 2024, and Google is failing me, giving me easy lists. Maybe there's just too much to report, but yeah, man, it's the AI side of stuff and the interaction of I don't know. I'm seeing it like I guess professionally, I see it a lot on LinkedIn, right? Like what is actually like not just AI generated. Like I was joking around, I don't know, months ago that any of those uh, where LinkedIn asks you to contribute to an article, dude, it's all AI responses,
Oh,
and
no
even the
doubt.
people that are posting stuff, I'm sure they have AI help. I mean, LinkedIn has an AI tool in there, right? And you can kind of feel for it, like, is this a real post or not? And it seems a bit, I don't know, misgenuine per se, or even comments that come across. That's like, bro, like I know you're a bot coming through, or you got, a software that you're running comments through. So LinkedIn, I'm kind of thinking nowadays is like, as long as I'm posting once in a while, just to keep my face out there for colleagues that I used to work with that might want to have just as more of a branding reminder, not even the content that I'm sending out. It can be like a funny meme, maybe a picture of myself doing something. That's it. I'm not trying to have any fucking thing groundbreaking on there. I really don't think
Yeah.
so. And even our fucking request for like, hey, you want a free website audit on the podcast? Zero response. Like none. I mean I don't have a big audience, which is fine. But yeah, figured someone might picked up and said, "Sure, let's do it." So I honestly think that going back to AI and LinkedIn, I don't know. I don't think it's as good of a lead channel anymore. I think it's gotten so much flooded in the last 6 months with AI conversations. Really hard to find those genuine pieces of content, and I think the only content that can actually do well, because it demystifies, at least for right now, is like video content. I think still does the best because it's not
No doubt
AI,
about it.
right? Right? It's not like you can't fake that yet. I mean, sure, there's software for creating videos for AI, but like in a conversation, that seems what excels the most is little small snippets of actual video content seems to be the best, man. But yeah, to your point, are we going to get to a scenario where people don't know how to do anything? It's possible.
And also, like, I just feel like there's just such an influx of digital stuff. Like, even that audit that you put on LinkedIn, like, I just feel like so many people are just so, like, I don't know, you're on Twitter for a while, then you're checking Instagram, then you're on TikTok, then you're on LinkedIn. It's like constant, 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 and it's all quick. And like, I even saw Gary Vee talking about something recently in an interview. He's like, you got to catch somebody in the first second. where the first half second, that first millisecond needs to be like eye catching right away, or else you're just scrolling past it, you're scrolling past it.
Yeah.
It's just like a scary thing to think about society. You know what I mean? Like, is that, and not to even go on a further tangent here, but like I always think about like Chamath as an example, Polyhopatia, guy on All In podcast, and his whole like claim to fame is, he helped like expand Facebook and like get a bunch of users because he helped with like a certain page or whatever certain functionality. And I'm thinking like, was that like actually a net positive to society? Like you like gamifying social media to make it addicting for users to stay on the platform to increase average time spent on platform. Like, is that actually doing good for humanity? Is that like something you would be like, yeah, like I grew Facebook from a billion users to 5 billion users. Like maybe we're actually not like optimizing towards things that are going to be a net positive for society. And I kind of feeling like that with AI right now. With I don't know, with a lot that I'm seeing in the workforce.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, man. What is it? Congress or Congress, one of the fucking political arms, they just passed that bill. It's got to go to the House, I think, or the Senate, whatever the way that works. It's the child protection for social media, where they're
Just
going to
saw that.
put some
Yep.
limitations on that, where it's going to be on the responsibility of the social media accounts to do it. I think one of them was like a very basic example of like some age limitations, but also um, like not having autoplay on, which is a good point for what you're talking about as far as that kind of keeping people on the site so they can make more money for ads. Um, I don't think it's a net. I mean, that's a good idea. I think I'm not sure of the privacy because how are they going to deem what's good or not for kids? That's a little bit of a slippery slope potentially, but you know, is it good? Are we in the right direction? I don't think so because I mean, dude, even like on Instagram, when I'm on there, every 30 days, I have to go in and I have to change a setting that says, do not give me suggested reels or suggested posts. I just want to see the people I follow. And that's almost impossible to see now on most social media because they throw the suggested amount in there because they know it's sensational. It's something that you're going to bite into. It's something that you're going to spend more time on site. But it's crazy to me. Like I have to opt out every 30 days to say, don't give me suggested posts. At one point in time, you couldn't do that. It just forced you to. And I was like, all right, I'm done with Instagram. I only want to see who I want to see. I don't want to see all this other stuff because I know it's such a attention sucker. I mean, same thing on Twitter. At least Twitter kind of delineates between your followers that for you. Or what is it? What is the difference? The two tabs they have X.
I
I
do
should
like
say
that
X.
feature.
Yeah, following versus for you. It's like following is like, all right, these are people that I have opted in to look at their feed. That's who I want to look at. And it's chronological, which I freaking love. And then the for you tab is like your dumpster fire. And it's going to be all mixed and stuff. You got to be prepared for it. But it's like at
And
least
I
you can
always default to
delineate it
that one.
to the for you or the following.
Yeah, for you. I always get sucked in.
Oh, yeah. But that's the thing. It's just more time on site for ads, etc. Yeah, I know I've said it before on here that when I was going to school and the marketing stuff, I realized like it's probably the like a very unethical I don't know, maybe not ethical, but like there's a scale of ethics per se when you're going to get a career. And I think maybe on one side, let's say you're a firefighter, right? You're there to try to save lives, people, and do good. Same thing like cops. Um, and then on the other side, it's kind of marketing, I feel like, where it's like,
Yeah,
what are we doing here? Unless we're working for like nonprofits, but that could be a whole issue too. Like if truly is it a nonprofit and you're trying to do good, etc. But most of the time, unfortunately, it's like we're making people buy shit they don't necessarily need. I love working with clients that have great products and they think we're doing something good. It makes it a lot easier to be inspired by the work, But it's like at the end of the day, the marketing stuff, I don't know. We're just I realized like in college, like I was like, this is probably one of the things like I don't know if people realize that they're getting into. It's not like the fun design and the madmen, this and that. And it's like, no, bro. It's like you really break it down. Like you're trying to make people buy shit they probably don't need necessarily nor afford. And that's kind of, is that good for society? I don't know. It's
That's that's why I like search and like search optimization because like I do think there is value there in somebody like searching for information, they find it, and even on like the paid side, if somebody's bidding, if you're bidding on like a particular like software keyword, like if somebody shows intent that like
showing
they need
intent.
your
I
service,
feel you.
you know what I mean? Like that makes sense to me. But I do think some of these like I don't know, like let's optimize for that first second and do this crazy hook and like somebody's gonna fall and then like it's gonna switch to me actually just so I can get your attention. Like I don't know if like at the end of the day, if you step back and think about like what do I do every single day to make money and provide for my family? Like we're in this rock floating in the middle of nowhere. Nobody knows how we got here on planet Earth. And all day long you're thinking about how can I just do this weird little hacky thing to get somebody's attention in a half a millisecond. Like is that like a net positive for society? Is that something that you want to look back on and be like, wow, in this crazy solar system, that's what I was focused on the whole time? Or like my focus was like, how can I get people addicted to using Facebook mobile app? I need to get them on this mobile app. I need them to stay on this app. Like, is that? I don't know. I just feel like there's just so much hype right now with AI, and I don't think a lot of people step back and think like, is this actually a net positive for society to head in this direction? And I don't know. I don't want to sound like some old conservative man and saying that like
Sure.
technology is terrible and it's not. But just from the glimpses that I have seen people use it and the outputs, it a lot of time it's not quality. It's just really not. And I was an early advocate of AI. And again, not saying that I'm not, but think about when you were starting out as an SEO and maybe you had some managers come over and show you how to use Excel and formulas to update a workbook or show you how to do this, that, and the third. Like you really knew the basics of SEO and you really built a foundation on that. Think about now if you're younger and all you're doing is using AI to do everything for you, you never have a first principles baseline understanding about how that shit works. And it's almost like, are we going to progress towards a whole generation of people who don't know how to do anything other than use a tool? Maybe that's good, maybe that's not, but I don't know. I just feel like the whole like shrinking attention spans with social combined with AI is going to make all this stuff easy. I don't ever have to think my own thoughts and think how to write for myself and articulate my own ideas. I don't know if that's a net positive there. I really don't. I kind of lean in the camp that it's really not.
Yeah, it's interesting too because even as an advertiser and doing paid media for clients, all of these platforms are forcing us to use AI. Right? You have to use PMax. You have to use what is Advantage Plus
Yep.
on Meta,
Yep.
um, and so it's like we can set it up, we run it, but we can't really tell the clients a tremendous amount of information. We have snippets of information. We don't truly know what's behind the black box, nor I don't think they'll ever tell us purposely. So it's like it's kind of a weird one. It's like what value do we provide outside of just managing it for you? Like where's that intuitive kind of creativeness come from? I think that goes away in the marketing side of things with these types of AI boxes that we have to they're forcing us to play in. There's no longer a point of being creative.
Like think about if your whole career is like just AI driven and LLM driven, and you never had to think about an idea for yourself, or you never had to like test something out for yourself, and you're just
Yeah.
leaning on like these automatic recommendations and all this stuff. Like I don't know. I think there's definitely something to be said about knowing how to do things manually and learning that process. And again, don't want to sound like some like old conservative here, but I almost kind of think it would be a good idea, and this is going to sound crazy and I didn't like really think through this before the pod, but it almost like this might sound like a terrible idea, but it almost might be like, hey, if you're like a junior person on the staff, like you can't use AI. Like you have to write your own emails, you have to build your own campaigns, Once you get to like this level or this level of proficiency, then you could use AI. Like I definitely think there is something to really understanding what you're actually doing and not just like very baseline, high level understanding because I just used an LLM tool and now like I'm a quote
So
unquote
here's
expert.
here's the trick, like, right, even on like the email side for a junior person coming in, I think that's a very interesting idea. I know I had the struggle writing out emails, the thought process, and go through, but there's a reason that struggle, it was good because I got to learn how to like structure an email, an argument in my mind, etc.
Exactly.
But here's the thing, man. um, how often do you think you are receiving AI induced content from like an email? Let's just use email for example. How
All
many
the
emails do you
time.
think you get today? Do you see it though? Do you see it and you detect it and you sniff it out? Because I think that's the trick, right? That's the trick. Like,
Yeah.
you can use the AI to help out, but then change it enough to where it doesn't feel so AI and it's got your personality in it. That's the trick. It's like if you're a junior person, it's like, well, hey, I had this thing move faster and got it done quicker, but it still sounds like me, and it tricked you, Trevor. You didn't know I used AI. That's the that's the thing. The moment you stop seeing that it's AI, then it's like, how do you even control it, right?
It's so true.
Because,
Which I don't think you can. I don't know. Maybe there's some tools that'll come out to be like, hey, this was AI, but I don't know.
well, and I think there's a scale, right? And it's the complexity of, I think it's like bandwidth type thing. I've talked about this before, so I got to make sure I write this down. So there's a paradox here of like, tricking yourself with AI and how complex it is based on the, I don't know, bandwidth that you have to use as far as like input. Um, so for example, like even like communication, right? It's really easy. Um, you know, it's easy for AI to generate text, right? It's very low bandwidth from like a file perspective and time. Images is the next step up where it's like not as good, but they're getting there. And then video is the next thing. So it's like as we're kind of adopting AI, it's like, I, you have to figure out like where are the points where like, okay, text, they can trick us that we can't tell it's AI. They can trick us that images are, AI. We can't distinguish between the two, and then eventually video. That's, I think, once we have the full encompass, then it's like you're not gonna be able to even tell between the two. You could be fucking AI talking to you right now if it's good enough, because it's got video, it's got learning, to where it's like I am talking to a fake Trevor and it tricked me and I wouldn't even know. And would I be bothered by it? Because I wouldn't even know, right? It's like the whole thing, like it's kind of like in the being in the Matrix, where it's like if you don't know, then why does it bother you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we'll eventually get to that point where it's like, dude, you go to bed, and you wake up next day, and it's just all age generated, and you didn't know, you wouldn't even have a problem with it. So that's more of an existential. We'll see where we go with it, but it's something I've been thinking about. Like, yeah, if you just don't know that it's AI, then you've been tricked, and it's like, does it matter? It could be happening now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's already happened, dude.
It could be. It definitely could be. But I do think in this space, if you're a resourceful person, you could do very well for yourself in this age of like zero attention span, everything's AI. If you have the ability to like really like do deep dives and learn for yourself and be original, I think you could really stand out and make a really good career in like whatever path that you want to kind of travel down there. Which I
Is that
think is a
maybe why
positive.
I was thinking, like you're saying about, I don't know, maybe is that why, like, it's really hard to do, but like YouTube, right? And or video content and YouTubers, it's like you can't really fake that shit right now, at least. It's like that's where I think people are gravitating toward for like authenticity, kind of, is like
Totally.
YouTubers, or it's like there's people that I follow like that are in the gardening, or like this dude that owns a freaking mine in Southern California called Cerro Gordo, and like he bought an old mine town and like has brought it back to life, goes into the mines, does all this history around it, and it's like,
I
dude,
know
that's the
that
kind of
one. Yeah.
content. That's the kind of content I enjoy watching. Um, and I bought his book, so it's like, hey, it worked out for him from an influence standpoint. Um, it's like I feel like video content on YouTube at least, or podcasts, I would say too, especially video podcasts. Um, I think people are heading that direction for attention span because they know it's like real
Yeah.
versus reading, I don't know, social media posts or news websites, if there's even those you can call that anymore. But there's something there about like maybe that's like the last holding ground of like authentic like content that's out there because it's video and it's like AI hasn't got there
Totally.
yet to trick us, you know?
Yeah. Something else that you
Yeah,
said
I
that
mean,
was, I was going to say, something else that you said on the lines of content there that I think is an interesting thought is like, what happens in a couple years when all the content is AI generated? And all meaning like, I don't know, 70%, 80, 90%, like whatever that is. Like, what happens when the vast majority of content is just AI driven? If AI is just learning off of like web content and, whatever type of content online, like does there get a point where it's just like, I don't know, like capped? It's not
so
original. It's not like you're
yeah, so
yearning
I think at
for
least
like
for like
original thought.
yeah, for like at least like text based stuff learning the internet, there's always that depiction of the snake eating the snake in this scenario because at some point it's like they're going to start. They already have. They're ingesting content that is AI generated. So like at one point, yeah, how do you train it on new information? Um, that's a really difficult question as far as maybe AI just becomes really dumb at that point, at least on the tech side of stuff. As far as like content text, I'm saying because yeah, there's a finite point where if everything's almost AI generated, like you're only adding 10% of new information into it. How accurate is that information? Where you're getting that information from? Where it's like a finite IQ that it could get to because you're not feeding it new information. Like it's
Oh,
impossible
totally.
to evolve it. And maybe that's like the grand scheme they can figure out. This is what everything is in existence. We need to stop. Maybe that's the point where they need to stop at some point of like learning. I'm like, hey, this is the point of like everything stopped from an AI generation standpoint, and that's the knowledge base that we have to use. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Pretty wild to
It's
think about.
it's hard to think about, to be honest. It really is. It's and how does that deploy for like our own work and what we do? It's that's a tough one because like even clients that are have a service or selling something, um, it's gonna be at some point of like there's gonna be a point at some point you could just hit a button and like AI generate a company based on what you want, even the products, you know. But it's like what's that value proposition? And I think it's gonna be like if you're really an authentic brand, um, that's what's gonna come across.
That just
It's kind of
that just made me think of a YouTube ad that I get all the time. I'm pretty sure it's GoDaddy, uh, of like GoDaddy powered by AI. Get your business online in minutes, and it's like this is such like an NFT moment. Like, do you is that like it's just so many things wrong with that statement of like get your business online in minutes. Like, dude, like AI is not going to do all that for you. And like, I don't know. I just always find that line like very, very funny and interesting. I do want to ask you about like Search GPT, but before then,
yeah.
Peter Thiel has like this whole famous interview question of like, tell me, something that you have a lot of conviction in that nobody else does. Basically, like, tell me like a very contrarian take of yours. I think my contrarian take on AI would be this whole pitch that you should use AI because it's going to give you so much time back for you to focus on strategy is the biggest farce and nonsense I think I've ever heard, but everybody says it. Everybody always, dude, use AI, you'll save so much time, you'll be able to focus on a strategy and other things. Like, that is such nonsense. If you're working, say for example, you're working at an agency and you're, a manager, senior manager, and you have 3, 4 accounts, you're not going to like knock everything out with AI and then just sit there and think like strategy. I could be like, you know what I mean? Like nobody does that. That is such nonsense in my opinion that like AI is just going to give you all this time back for you to be more strategic. Like, what does that even mean? And like, let's stop acting like junior level employees are going to get all this time back, and then they're going to be focusing on like all these other things. Then they're going to knock out this problem in the business. Then they're going to go over here, and then they're going to do this strategic thing. Like, I just think that's such a nonsense pitch that AI is going to save
What
you
do
all
you
this
think
time
they're
for
going
you
to
to
do with
focus
their
on other things.
So what are they going to focus their other time on if they get this time?
Again,
Not
not trying to
doing as
sound like a
much.
dude, not trying to sound like a conservative old man, but you're remote. You have the most addictive thing ever, a fucking cell phone, literally ever, and AI saving you all this time, and it's writing all your responses, doing all the stuff. I would assume a lot of people are kind of chilling and going to be less productive. Again, not trying to sound like an old conservative man, but like I know a lot of people
But
slack off
so
in the remote world, and now you introduce AI to this whole situation. Again, is that a positive direction for society? I don't know. I don't have a take on that, but like, it might not be. It honestly might not be.
okay, so let me think through this a little bit. So if they're spending less time working and more time, let's say, dicking around, so you're getting paid. So I guess let's say instead of working 40 hours a week, AI comes in and carves off 10 hours. So they work really 30 hours a week. This other 10 hours, is that necessarily a bad thing that you can get more done in less time? Sure, you're not doing the strategic stuff to fill in that other 10 hours, right? That maybe is the expectation. So if you have that expectation, it's just fucking wrong. It's just not going to happen, right? You're probably
Yes.
going to be distracted by other things like social media, etc. But let's say maybe an individual is not fully distracted of like fucking off, and those 10 hours he used to spend more time with family, better themselves, uh, and maybe kind of use it more of in a positive way. I could see where like, hey, that's where AI in this scenario for this individual person, and it's not going to be the same for everybody. It's a positive thing because I got 10 hours back in my day or 10 hours back in my week to, I guess, as long as you're doing positive things, that could be fantastic for what AI has done. But I think you're right. The expectation that no, these people are going to work more and be more strategic on it. Sure, that I think is a pipe goal, but it's like an expectation. But it's like I don't know if those individuals even know how to think strategic and to really think strategic on an account. I'll be very frank, it's very difficult to do at an agency level because you need to be like embedded in the company. I mean, honestly, nobody actually thinks more strategic than the fucking CEO, the person that's like the shit is on the line for,
That's
than
day to
someone that you're
day
bringing
in
in
the
to pay
weeds.
for.
Yeah.
They know it. Sure, you can bounce off ideas and have some sparks of ideas, but like to be truly, truly strategic and have all these aha moments, you literally need to have like no distractions, no other work, and you're just sitting here just absorbing it all and you're kind of waiting for those moments of inspiration to come so you can play with. That's really what strategy is. You know, big agencies, those guys have, let's say, 4 or 5 accounts, maybe even more. They're not going to be that strategic. They'll have some bright, they'll just have other things that will look impressive, and they probably are impressive compared to the client. So then it's considered strategic. So it's kind of a bit of a rant on the whole strategy side of things. But I think going back to your point of like AI taking up time or taking, giving us more time, I think it is a farce that agency owners' expectations that these individuals are going to work more on the account. Like, who wants to work more? It's not a lazy thing, but it's like there's other things you can do in life beyond just work. There's life in general. And I think it maybe even goes back to what you were talking about, kind of bringing this earlier into the conversation. We were talking about like the expectations of earning money, right? You spent your whole time just trying to earn money. That's something you don't take with you when you're dead. But it's like this: have you spent your time doing? But I think that's something culturally and like work wise, like right, you got to work 40 hours a week. You got to get your job. You got to make money so you can provide, etc. That's kind of like a model, maybe more of a Western model. I'm not sure if that's even true, but maybe there's some sort of ethos or ideation around that of like at least expectations of our generation and maybe previous of like what that model of American dream looks like, and if you do this, you'll be successful, kind of thing. And maybe
Yep.
that's where I'm kind of trying to connect to with the AI of like, oh, you got to work your 40 hours a week and you'll be successful. If I get 10 hours back, I could do more things because I think there is an epiphany that's happening. And correct me if I'm wrong. People say if you work 40 hours a week, you're committed to your job, you're doing well, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of what career path you're doing. But if you're a hard worker, you're not lazy, you're taking care of yourself, you're a decent family person. But as long as the job, you're doing hard work, you should be able to thrive. Buy a
100%.
home, maybe buy another
100%.
home down the road. That's not the case now. Like that American dream model. And sure, compared to other countries, it's way better. But I'm just saying what we have been taught here, at least in my experience, those are the expectations. Dude, people are fucking struggling. Like, there's not even a point. Like, it's so difficult to even thrive. You can't thrive. It's very rare that you see anybody thriving. Like, something got broke in that American system model, where those are the expectations that we were sold on. And it's like, well, we got here, but it's not. It's not what y'all promised. At least that's
But
my experience and people I've talked to.
your starter home, a basic starter home, is going to cost you $600,000, and a pack of eggs and lunch meat is going to cost you $150 at checkout at grocery store, and an average car is going to cost you $50,000, and an average wedding is going to cost you 100. Like, it just seems like there's so many things that are just so out of whack now, where you need to be so dialed in financially to be fine in today's day and age. And it's like, I don't know, it's concerning where that leads to. And I think that connects to like this whole social media AI stuff. Like, it kind of makes me think of the quote of like, if I forget the exact quote, but like, a lot of money reveals who you were the whole time. Like, if you're a scumbag and you get a bunch of money, you're going to be a scumbag. If you're a great person, you're probably going to help people
Mm.
out and do good things. Like, I almost think this AI would just reveal who you truly are. Like, if you get time back, does that mean, like, if you get time back and you're then going to go work outside and be a positive member of community and go help other people and go work out and spend time with family, great. But if you're going to get time back to like lay on your couch and scroll on TikTok for 7 hours, like, is that a positive for society? I don't know. I don't really know if that is or not, but I kind of feel like with COVID and remote work, people figured out how to game the system. And hey, power to you. You know what I mean? If you get your bag and, do your thing. But if it just means that everybody's just getting things done as quick as possible and the level of work isn't there, it's not quality across the board. Again, I don't know if that's an overall net positive there, but I do feel like people getting time back, I'm an advocate for that, but I don't know if I'm an advocate for everybody getting time back and then everybody just like chilling on their phone and just TikToking the whole time.
Yeah, because that also talks about conversations about AI and what is it, universal income, basis universal income. It's like, okay, if does AI does replace stuff eventually, what do you do with that time and money that you get?
Do you,
Um,
do you see Sam
that's
Altman
tough without
just
having a
released
purpose.
the UBI analysis and findings and everything?
I don't think I did.
Oh my God, it's fascinating. So Sam Altman, he funded a 3-year universal basic income.
Oh,
Of
I think
course,
I
Sam
saw
Altman did
something
it
about that. Yeah.
because he had. I mean, dude, he's so dialed in. So he probably knew all of this AI stuff would then lead to a UBI type conversation. So he
Hmm.
funded like $14 million of his own money, and I think the fund was like 60 million. They did it in like, I think, 3 different cities, like two pockets of Texas, and they basically gave like lower income households. I think it was like a $30,000 a year salary. Those individuals would get $1,000 a month tax free. So they
Hmm.
pretty much went from like 30K take home to about like 45 take home per year. And then they also had a control group that got less. But essentially, like, the findings were with UBI, like, there was an initial bump in happiness, and then that catered off after a couple months because people kind of got um, like used to that new level of income. And some people did start saving a bit more, like a smaller percentage were able to save a bit more, which was awesome. But I think the overall findings of the study were it didn't really impact people's general like overall happiness on the day to day of just getting money.
Yeah.
It it really didn't. Um, so it's like that's an interesting thing too. Like, if again, if we're moving towards like this whole AI, everything's AI, and everybody has all this time back, I definitely think there's something to be said about like struggling a little bit and figuring something out and like building something and doing something. I don't know.
I think it's
That's when
purpose
I've
though
always felt
too.
the
It's like
happiest. Yeah,
purpose, right? Let's say money wasn't even a thing, and you're just able to, if you have a passion or a purpose, and somehow it's quantified in a way that can be balanced out to where you can still live. I think that's a huge driver of happiness is purpose. Like even like when someone retires, what is the first things they say? Get a hobby. Why is that? It's because you've been doing something work the whole time. It felt like purpose, and it probably purpose was at the time, but is it the right purpose? So it's like if you could skip that, it's like what would your purpose be? And I think a lot of people don't understand. Like, I don't even know how I would answer that. Say, hey, Steve, you're financially good. Your family's going to be all good. All you need to do is find purpose and like something that you do. Is that well? Okay, is that purpose for how I conduct myself, or is it something I'm doing for others? I think it'd be a very difficult question to answer for anybody. Like, what would you do? Um, because it's not even a thought in our mind to get to that. It's like imagine
totally.
we are our kids and it's going to school instead of like what do you want to be? It's like find your purpose. Like if we could teach that, maybe we could have happier
That's
people.
interesting.
You know, it's just a
I've
money thing, man. It makes the world go round, but you don't take it home with you when you're dead. So
so true, and I've
it's
heard
a
so
hard
many.
balance.
I think there's data on this, but I think a solid amount of founders who've sold their company and exited then have like post company sale depression because they just went from working with
Sure.
a team in a team environment. There's a mission, there's a goal, everybody's working towards something, there's camaraderie, you're going through breakthroughs and getting past roadblocks. And then like that's not a thing anymore. And that's like a huge, like I remember when I graduated college and my whole goal was to go play overseas, and I tore my MCL and I like had to stop playing. Like I just couldn't get my knee back right in time. And I was just totally lost because like my whole life was like, hey, like you're a basketball guy. Everybody knew me through basketball, played it every day, worked out every day, loved it. And I just love like the off season and just getting better and having a goal to work towards. And when that gets taken away from you, it's weird. It's like a weird, like what is my purpose and what am I working towards?
You've
And
already
I definitely think,
experienced that. That's interesting. Yeah. Wow.
yeah, it was like extremely difficult to go through. It's like a whole like your whole like identity shifts there. And I can totally see how that happens with founders. And I definitely think there's something to be said for that.
That's crazy. So you blew your MCL?
Twice, senior year of high
Wow.
school, and then senior year of college, both those senior years. And yeah, it was weird. Thankfully, I was able to like finish senior year out, and but I had to like have a brace on it, just like was not the same, and then just could never. I don't know. It's weird. MCLs are weird because they heal on their own. So like you just get like a brace. When I did it in high school, like they give you like a full brace and it's like straight, and then like a week later they'll give you like a little bit more bend and a little bit more bend, and it'll heal on your own. So you don't have to get surgery on it. But after the second time, it was just like just sketchy, just like very sketchy to like plant and like be in that position. So yeah, not ideal there.
So when you're in school, I mean, what even got you into doing digital? I don't even asked you this question ever. Like, how the hell did you even get into doing
Honestly, Gary V,
digital
to be
stuff?
honest. I remember like in college, in high school, I mean, in high school, like we were, my buddy Shane and I, like just did so many different like random hustles, like so many different random hustles. And would just always want to like, make money and be entrepreneurial and just like, make a lot of money, honestly. And figured entrepreneurship would be the way to do it, building a business. And then that's when Gary V was like blowing up big time. And
Mm-hmm.
Gary Vee was blowing up, and I remember literally senior year of college, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was just so dialed in for like entrepreneurship and like wanted to do something there. Gary Vee was huge at the time, and he was talking about digital and paid and all this other stuff. So I wanted to do something in like digital marketing because of him. Dude, he actually posted on a Snapchat. Kid you not, I was laying in bed senior year, and he posted on a Snapchat about to hop on a plane. Send me a question or whatever if you have a second. And I checked his story, and he like posted it like 30 seconds before. I immediately emailed him with my resume, and he responded and CC'd their head of HR, this guy Drew Bayless, and was like, Drew, you know, chat to Trevor or whatever. Like immediately responded to me. I had like 2 interviews with VaynerMedia, and at the time they weren't like sure if they were going to like make a hire or not, and things kind of paused out. Like I'd never ended up going to work for them, and then started working at Sear. But that's initial spark was like entrepreneurship, and kind of Gary Vee was like, this would be a good field to go into. And at the time, it kind of seemed obvious, like Facebook was starting to be like a huge thing, Snapchat was starting to be a huge thing, Twitter was new. It was kind of obvious that like digital marketing, social media, online, all that stuff, like that's not going to go anywhere. So kind of made sense at the time to get in the field there. And then yeah, once I started and got into search, I just really enjoyed search on like the paid side. It was very obvious. People have intent. They're telling you what they're looking for. You just have to follow some of these mechanisms in like Google or Bing Ads account to get them. Um, so I kind of like went down the search path, but yeah, that was like the initial in there.
Did you get to try a couple different things and search was part of it and you just kind of navigated to it? It's like, did you maybe try SEO a little bit or email or something?
My
Or search was
right
just kind
before
of
I went
picked
to
up?
before I went to Sear, so Sear I feel like was like an actual like digital marketing. Shout out Will Reynolds, love that guy. Guest of the pod. I started at this company, Momentum Digital. We worked out of a WeWork in Northern Liberties. It was 4 guys. It was 4 dudes, and we had a couple contractors from time to time. And young founder, he was like 27 at the time, Philadelphia based, and I was like literally making $15 an hour pre-tax on PayPal, and working like 60 hours a week. I was building websites, I was launching search campaigns, I was doing organic social media management for a restaurant. I was literally anything that was needed for a client. Any we had a show, a YouTube show. I was interviewing small business owners throughout the city, like anything. And then once I went to Sear, I really like got focused in on search. But at the time, I literally was doing like anything digital.
Gotcha. No, it's interesting how you kind of gravitate towards that and you have that kind of broad mix because I mean, obviously that's something they don't have at school, probably at your time, especially not my time. As far as like, hey, try out these disciplines, see what maybe aligns up for you. But it's fortunate that you're able to kind of do jack of all trades and then kind of find what resonates. It's similar to me where I was managing, kind of doing the digital marketing for a couple different hotels and they have a couple different properties and stuff like that. I had to do the jack of all trades of everything, like website, email, paid. SEO was part of it, and I just kind of gravitated towards SEO early on, and then just
I don't
honed it in.
I don't know if you had a similar experience, but I remember it was such a stressful experience like when I was in it, but now being removed, so thankful for the experience because I feel like I really became resourceful in that role. Like there was just no questions. It was like there was no training. Everybody was strapped. Like there was no training. I literally was taking. I took a Udemy course like in my first 2 weeks as like my onboarding and my training for like how to do search, and I would just YouTube my way through everything. Was the first time I did it. Every new client request was the first time I've ever heard it, and I just YouTubed my way through it. And that's almost why I feel like maybe I'm like a little AI hater. Like I'm kind of am, I'm kind of not, but like that was such a good experience for me because now I know how to figure shit
Yeah, that's
out and
interesting.
I'm resourceful.
So it's a very similar story. I'm just a generation before you on as far as like we didn't really have the ability to just YouTube shit. Like we had to go out
Yeah,
onto the
YouTube was
forums.
probably like not that
Yeah, it
great.
was it wasn't even really a thing for research when we first started out, and even how to do things. So it was a collaboration of um, different websites that would teach different things. A lot of forum activity, like Digital Point Forum,
Forums
was
had to be
one.
big.
Yeah, they were big back then. Um, Ian Lurie, he ran ProNet, or no, not ProNet, Portland Interactive out of Seattle. I remember when he had actually made a book about launching a new website and it's like digital marketing stuff. And I always stay connected with the guy a little bit here and there. Um, and this was fucking years, dude. I don't know, 15 years ago probably. I bought his book and it helped me get. I'd be confident about we were relaunching a bunch of new websites, for it all. But it was all literally like there was a point of like some information, but it was literally just fucking try shit out. Like it was like early on days where it's like we're just trying this out because we think it might work. We heard some rumors about this or that. It was very much like the wild west, and so it's like yeah, your point of like there wasn't a standard model to go through. It was kind of cool to go through an industry that was being born and be on that wave of it being born and just being you have to be resourcefulness, super resourceful, and that's kind of where we're still are. I think that's why our personalities connect well because you are a resourceful person. Like if you don't have the answer for it, you'll go find the answer and figure it out, and do the research. And I don't know if that's something that's being taught or being missed now with AI. And so I think that's a really interesting point. Like you gotta, we at least we have our resilience just based on kind of having to go through some hard shit from learning, right? And if you don't go through that, are you going to be? I don't know. And if AI is
And
just helping you out the whole way, I would say definitely you wouldn't be.
yeah, it's so
But we'll see.
it's fascinating how all of this is going to play out. But I do think there's just something to be said about like being resourceful and knowing how to dig in to figure something else out. And I kind of feel like almost like it ties to the state of where we're at in our country. Like I feel like we've had such good times for so long and we just try and make everything so much easier with technology that it might have led us down a path that isn't the best. And I don't know. Again, not trying to be an AI hater here. I definitely think there's a ton of
Gonna have
value, and I
balance.
use it every day. But I think there's a balance to be struck here, and I think there's something to be said about like, hey, there's struggle a little bit, try and figure something out. Don't necessarily just default to like, hey, like AI, think for me because I don't want to think about anything and I don't want to figure this out on my own.
Just a prompt engineer. That's your job.
Hey, maybe that's the path that we're headed down. It is what it is, but I don't know. The last thing I will say, I feel like it's very interesting. Like and you were a little bit ahead of this ahead of my time, but it was interesting. Like I think the iPhone came out, I want to say in like eighth grade or ninth grade, and like I didn't get an iPhone I think until like college. I think that was my first one. So like my whole like elementary school, there was no cell phones and there was no social media. And in college, social kind of started getting popular, not necessarily huge. So like it was interesting. Like I grew up without pretty much any cell phone and any social media. Just call it like the end of the wave. And now in like my professional career, my first like 10 years, there was no AI whatsoever, and now AI is being introduced as like the new like mobile wave. So it's kind of interesting to see how this is all going to like evolve over time. But I'm thinking now, if you're just being born, you're immediately 3, 4, 5 years old. Cell phones, iPads, internet, social media, AI. It's like it's just I don't know. It's wild how different those times are and how much technology the youth has compared to our upbringing.
Yeah, it's fast too, and it's like getting faster. It seems like I've seen it with my kids, etc. It's like you have to kind of detach and like force them to do analog things and show them analog technology. It's like, yo, this
Read
is
a
a
book.
phone that here's a phone that was plugged into a wall, yo. Like, yeah. So it's one of those things that it's gonna. I don't know what's gonna be after AI, how fast it goes, or is that the point of singularity with AI? So I couldn't tell you what's next after that. So it's a hell of a fucking time to be alive. That's for sure, though.
It is
Uh,
though. It definitely is. No
it
doubt about
really
it.
is. You got to realize that part. It is. It's just we know so much that it's easy to get spun out, but it is an interesting and fun time to be alive, and
What's the
lots of fun things.
what's the one quote that you hit us with from a previous episode there about like moderation? The one show Ted.
Oh, find out before you flip out is one of them. I don't
Maybe
think that's
maybe I'm thinking of
moderation.
something else about
Yeah.
moderation there. But that's I think the point here is like I feel like there needs to be a bit of moderation here of AI in general here and some originality and resourcefulness as opposed to we're headed down everything's like a 30-second TikTok video or a 5-second TikTok video, and every piece of content is AI driven. Like, I think there's a little moderation balance that we could strike here.
Yeah, there'll be a rebellion back. We're like, we don't want to use AI. Like, I don't want anything
100%.
AI ingested, like a non AI, like I don't know, like a non GMO, right? It's
Yep.
going to be non AI, kind of a pitch.
I'm sure agencies are going to be like positioned as like, hey, like we don't really use AI. Other agencies will. We're more about like authenticity and experience and everything. I don't necessarily think that's the smartest like route to take. You probably should use some AI tools and lean in a bit, but a little moderation.
Yeah, I could see that. Right on. Well, I think that's a good point to wrap it up. My head hurts. It was a good conversation.
Let's call it there. AI and moderation.
uh, yes, AI and
All right, folks.
moderation for sure. All right.
It's been real.
Till next time.
Until next week.
Yeah,
Later.
right.